Welcome to the next episode of the CAPB Podcast. Today we are joined by a good friend of mine, someone who I've known for many years, who I used to play army football with, John Stephenson, who is the founder of Forces Transition Group. Welcome, John.
Yeah, well, it's great to be here, lads. It's great to see you as well, because I haven't seen you. I didn't even know you were brothers, and I certainly didn't know you were older, Matt. So that's my goal.
Thank you very much. Yeah, mate. So the whole podcast is about veterans who go into business.
Yeah.
And you've got a really big footprint in business. So we can't wait to start the conversation and talk all about where you're at and where you're going with Forces Transition Group, mate.
Yeah. Well, it'd be nice to tell everybody. I'm sure a lot of people can see what we do, but they probably don't know the inner workings of what's happened, where it's come from, and things like that. So hopefully it'll be interesting for people.
Defo.
Cool. So, John, the first question we ask everyone is, tell us a little bit about your military career. Like, what was the highlight of your military career?
Yeah. Well, I served for 22 years in the Royal Signals. I joined the military because there wasn't very much going for me in the north. I was from South Shields, so I'm a big Sunderland supporter, as you can see from the Sunderland strip behind me. But I joined the military because there was no opportunity, and loved my military service. Went all the way through to being an RCMO, an RSM, all that kind of good stuff. Never really had a bad moment in my military life, but my highlights were always sport. Would I have stayed in the military if I didn't have football? And of course, playing for the army and the corps and all that great stuff? Probably not. So I could do my job. I could do my job well, but I had an out. I had an out every other week. I could go and be with guys who were the same as me, who liked a beer, who were great footballers. Well, probably better than me, but good footballers. We could win a lot, and we did win a lot. And that was really the highlight. Everything surrounding me is all sport and all football from my army times. Really, that's what the highlights were. We've done all the normal stuff that everyone's done: Afghanistan, Iraq, all that kind of stuff. The highlights were football, really. Sport.
It's an interesting one, mate. I played a lot of sport while I was in, and it's when we talk to people on the podcast, you should never play down like the tours and stuff, because that's like we almost take that as yeah, everyone's done that, but everyone's done that, but it's it's incredible, mate. You served for 22 years, deployed everywhere, and finished an illustrious career as W1.
Yeah, well, I do look back at all of that fondly, and really why I left in the end was because of a posting that was 7 hours of where I wanted to live and settle my family, for the children and for my wife having a great job. I'd probably still be in the military if it wasn't for that. Ironically, I was an RCMO who was supposed to be able to change people's lives and where they want to live and make things better and keep people there for longer. Ultimately, the military wouldn't allow me to do that. So I thought, you know what, it's time to go while I feel great about still being in the military. And that's why I'm here, really, running my own business, because I left badly.
And let's get on to that, right? You say you left badly. Now, Paul and I have both served. We've both been through a resettlement process of sorts. When did the idea, because Forces Transition Group, if you could just tell us what Forces Transition Group is, first of all, and then when did you come up with the idea to think, I'm going to make this into a business?
Yeah. Well, the Forces Transition Group relies on people's experience. So it started with mine and many, many thousands of others. So I had a project or a point there that said something's not right here. So the Forces Transition Group is all about a process, really. And people who are leaving the military, or a spouse or a sibling, or a veteran or blue light, we call them service users, have the ability to use 1 or 100 things through it. And it's really a guiding light. What we're trying to do is change the mentality of the way somebody thinks. Because especially military people, most things have been done for them. And when most things are done for them, then we create a bit of hope when we're leaving. Something's just going to happen and everyone's going to do this for me. But the reality is the real world doesn't work like that. So by giving people a mindset that their ownership relies on them and them purely, but giving them a guide to take top class areas that can enhance that, creates what we call the hunter mindset. And once somebody has the hunter mindset, we don't ever see a failure. The problem is we see lots of sleepwalking mindsets where people believe that everything will just work out and then something will land on the lap. The reality of real life is that's not going to happen.
It's it's definitely not. And you've got to want it. You've got to. I think that's the space anyone. If you're going to be successful, you've got to really want it. And I think you're right. I think there's an expectation that if you were good in the military, well, I'm going to be fine, and that's not the case. John, with you, did you have a difficult resettlement? Was it unsuccessful? Did you have a job? Did you get a job that you hated? Did you not get a job? What was the inspiration behind you going into business?
Yeah, well, the day I signed off, I kept working. That was the first problem. I didn't own my own future, but what I did was I went to the military system that helps you leave. And I was more confused when I came out of that. So what I did was I buried my head a bit more. And I was just full of fear. I was telling everybody I was fine. I've got loads of job interviews and all these kinds of things. The reality was I was lying to them. And after a while, I was lying to myself. So I had all this confusion going on. I had no idea where I fit. It was kind of a neurodiverse thing that goes on with lots of military people where everything that I'd done and all my skills, I just didn't understand whether that would be good enough for any job or where that job would be. So I had all those kind of problems. I did end up getting a job, but bear in mind I left on around £60,000 and let's call it at the top of the tree. I ended up on a job with 25,000. So £35,000 hit, working in an area that was way below me, without me being big-headed, that caused lots of problems. Not just for me, but for my family, because I was unstable, but also for the people who worked in that first business, because I just went in there and although it was successful, I just changed everything, and the speed that I was doing everything at just didn't work for who they were. So effectively, in the end, the people above me started getting a little bit unsettled at the levels that it was getting to. And of course, it caused problems above me and the problems with the people below me. So I became unstable in that role as well. The business was successful. It was making money and it was profitable. But I was running at a speed that was way too high. And it was all because I was in the wrong area, the wrong business.
So at what point did you think I can't do this? I don't want to work in this space where I'm, probably out of my pay bracket, and this just isn't working for me. Because that happens to lots of people. Lots of people leave the military, get a job, and they don't like their first job. Then it's okay, I'll get another job and another job and another job. And then you're in your fourth, fifth job before they find the career they want. When did you make the decision to say, I'm going to do something about this and create a business?
Pretty much straight away, but I couldn't get another job. I ultimately had 4 or 5 jobs in the first 2 years. But I didn't like the next job and I didn't like the next job. And the whole reason all of that happened is because I didn't leave properly. I'm trying to stop that. I'm not saying people shouldn't move jobs when they're leaving the military, but we should have some stability. There's nothing worse than moving jobs after 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. Why not get people into jobs? Because they understand where they're going. They're far more likely to stay. That makes it better for them. It also makes it better for the organisation. And we mustn't forget that there's an organisation behind this that's paying money. Of course, if we want those organisations to employ more committed people from the forces, they don't want people who are leaving after 3 months. They want people who are going to stay. They want, sustainability in their business. Sustainability in business comes from the best people staying for a long time. So if you get a great service person who's the best thing in sliced bread and he leaves after 3 months, you won't employ another one of those. So that's what happened. And all of a sudden, I had all these jobs. Now, these jobs, I went into kind of the financial area, insurance and things like that. Again, wasn't really my area. And it became really toxic. And then ultimately, the last job I had in finance was really toxic and I got bullied by the managing director, and that was really the straw that broke the camel's back, really. And effectively, I had a vision actually on a wall. It was 5 A3 pieces of paper, so big pieces of paper, and it had the FTG vision on it. And I was trying to explain to them, saying, this is where you could take your business to the next level, and this will really work. And they brought a guy in from Chelsea Football Club, who apparently was this all singing, all dancing person who took Chelsea to where it is. And he just said, that'll never work. He just simply said that to me. So I took all of that information down. I put it in my car, and that final Monday I left. And the FTG was born, and it's worked. It's the best thing in the world. It's the best thing in the world to be able to throw that back and say, it has worked, by the way. It's a nice feeling.
I want to go back on a point that you said, mate, about when you left initially and you're working at a level that is in your mind, and I can probably attest to every service person or veteran mind, is like a baseline. This is the level of expectation that we're all working at. Now, when I left, I found it really difficult, very similar to you, very difficult to adjust when people around me weren't up to that baseline. And I felt that, hold on a second, why are you being lazy? Like, why are they not doing that? Why can't they just get on board? It's really simple. I can see it in my head. Everyone else can see it in the environments that we came from. We all knew the party line, right? We all knew our own role and things like that. And I found that really difficult when coming into Civvy Street, that it's fucking not like that at all. It's like there's fucking fires everywhere, and you're like, right, and you go into solution mode straight away and go, this is shit, this is how we can get better. And I found that with me, it was very, this is shit, this is how I can get better. And people are like, whoa, you can't say that. And I'm like, why the fuck not? It is shit. Go away and do this, go away and do that. And again, I had that friction initially. And I'm thinking, is it and the more and more I talk about it, the more I think about it, it's more of a, do we set ourselves up for failure in regards to how we are trained and how the experiences we go through in the military, for when that transition comes out of that life into a new life, do we have the proper skill sets to kind of normalize that sort of like the civvy life? And 10 years, I'm nearly out 12 years now, and I'm just still have to check myself, but I'm just now at that level where I can go, oh yeah, I understand that they're working at 100%. That might be my 60%, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Just wonder your thoughts. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, we're set up to fail because we don't look outside of the military ever. So why would we know what the other world was? The military is a pure different world. It's like we're living in space. The problem for business as well is they don't look into the military world. So we actually have this kind of barrier. And if those barriers aren't broken down for the actual person leaving, or the business doesn't understand what they're receiving, and the people inside it don't understand what they're receiving, you're going to get friction straight away.
Yeah.
So more needs to be done and what that understanding is, and we're trying to do that. I believe the problem we've got is a lot of people believe that business need to do more. It's not. It's the other way around.
Yeah.
Because why do business need to do more? The problem is the individual. So we've got to make sure the individual is way more understanding of what's about to happen. Because the business owes us nothing. Now, the business can put in mentorship and put in pathways and things like that, which they do, which is all fantastic. But actually, the business is the secret to the success in the end. So if we understand all of that, they're the ones who've got the jobs. They don't need to do anything. What we need to do is make sure we're the finest and the best, and we actually can fit into that. But we need to understand what that is.
I think it's a really good point, John. Sorry, mate. I think it's a really good point that you make. Is there's we're a relatively modern day, right? Let's say we're modern day. I've been out the army 3 years.
Yeah.
There is still a perception of what people in the army are in a lot of businesses. And I've worked in financial services, and now working back in defence. But it's like there is this like assumption where, if you're in the army, it's quite shouty and you're sergeant majory type look. That's the opinion. And there's also that, like you said, in Civvy Street, for people in the military and their opinion on Civvy Street. The elephant in the room for resettlement, I guess, is that what's in place currently for people leaving the military, CTP. Now, or if it is still in the thing, but for me, when I went through my resettlement, I served for 23 years. There was only one part of it that was mandated, one tiny part of it, which was a brief. The rest of it wasn't mandated. And the stuff that was like in the course that was available was you need to have a CV and you need to have a LinkedIn. You've got one, boxes ticked, good luck. Do you know what I mean? And I think there is a huge, for you and coming into your business, for what Forces Transition Group do, which is help prepare people for moving from military into industry, is that must have been a huge risk, mate, to compete. Because that was what was in place was quite a well-trodden path. It had been there a while. No one knew there was any other options.
Yeah.
So for you, from a business point of view, to go, no. I've experienced this in my life, and I feel that I've got enough like of a vision and enough of an understanding, because I've trod that path, where I'm going to try and do something to compete against it. And firstly, mate, that's mega. You've got to, and I don't know if you ever sit back and reflect over a whiskey or whatever and think, Jesus, we've built this. And with no guarantees at any point that it was going to work.
Yeah.
As you said, you walked out the job with 5 bits of A4 paper with a vision. And now you're this huge platform, massive following on LinkedIn. You're providing these events, you're doing all these things, and we'll get onto that later. When was the bit that you thought, this is going to work? Was it like a WhatsApp group with loads of people who knew, or was it like, let's create a group and let's get people together? What was the business part?
The COVID is what made the FTG. So going back to the first piece about CTP and CTW, I think that's a poison chalice for starters. I think it's nearly impossible, to the point where they now don't do CVs, and it's all been removed. Now, for whatever reason, that's up to them. We see ourselves more unique, and we're outside of barracks because that's where the real world is. So I would never want that. I would never, ever want to take that. And I take my hat off to all them people who work in there, because it's a difficult job. And like me, everybody blames them for your failings, because I blamed them. But it wasn't them, it was me. But it was my lack of understanding and ability to be able to do that. But where it started working was COVID. When I first got the idea of this, I was still within that financial piece. So the idea was to go to unit and do good quality financial. So I'm not saying we just sell them insurance like everybody else does. To go on and do a proper product where they understood their future, a mortgage, maybe life insurance, a will, a trust, all those things. And that's what we started doing. And it worked. And then we would then bring all of this other stuff in to all those people who are leaving. Because most people in the military don't really need any stuff like life insurance and stuff. They're all young, and it's the more mature ones who need that, which is the idea. And after a short period of time, they would be the ones leading. So we could then capture all of those and take them through some kind of process that would help them. That was the real world outside of barracks. But COVID hit, and we couldn't go on barracks. So it was either we fold, or the people who invested in my idea said, do what you want to do. And they just said, go and do it. So I just flipped it straight away. And I turned it into 5 fundamentals. So first of all, writing a CV professionally, your brand, how to align yourself CPD-wise correctly, how to elevate yourself, whether it be in a pitch or whether it's on an interview. And then your financials would finish all of that off, and you'd be the kind of complete picture. And that's what we did. So effectively, to make money, we would give everything for free. But if somebody did do something financial, then that would be the income. That's how it all started many years ago. But it started turning into the point where, okay, we've got these brilliant people, but what do we do with them? So effectively, when you've got 15,000 people leaving the military, and many of them are top talent, and if you just teach them how to do a CV, or you just do this and you just do that, where do they go? They still don't know what they're supposed to be doing. So we need some kind of job acceleration in there. So that's when all of the job sites start coming in. So I got together with lots and lots of businesses, in which we're still building, and said, well, actually, you're the end result here. You're the secret. Because it doesn't matter what we do over here, unless that's there, then it doesn't work. And they need to know what that is. You need to teach them. So we put all these different shows on, different ways, online, live, everything we possibly can. So people are starting to learn. So effectively, we've taken all of a sudden from an ownership phase where we say, right, you need to do all these things. Then we put them inside businesses. They might not get a job with those companies, but they're learning. They're starting to gain direction. So instead of going, I want to do all of this, they're now thinking, no, I'm going to do this. That's far easier to make a decision and get into a business and start to sell yourself. And that's what happened. And all of a sudden we came out of COVID and we built all this stuff that was all online. And then we just progressed it and went outside. And what we're finding now is people are just finding a pivot so easy. Because once they've got that mindset, and it's all simple words, hunter versus sleepwalker, everyone understands it. And you don't have to explain it. If somebody's got a hunter mentality, they're going to be successful. And as soon as they get that in their head, they are.
I think
it's
a really unique model, and it's actually fascinating that you're not only like refining the skills of the person, you're then saying, cool, that's you. Now these are the industries, and we're going to bring them. So we're going to create an environment where you can have a conversation with industries, and you can almost like dip your toe in the areas, build your network of these people, and think, yeah, I think I will move into the rail industry. And beforehand, I didn't even know what the rail industry was, or I might go and work in financial services, even though, you know what I mean, I've never worked in that kind of space.
It's good because I think that I never had that rap. The business that you provide, never had that when I went through settlement. It was literally a mandatory brief, CV. Like I had to go to Catrick for a couple of days. It was like that. At that point, I'd switched off mentally from the military. I'm like, couldn't give a shit anymore. I just want to get out. And there was none of that. And I remember distinctly thinking at the time, why is there no one here telling me what it's like out in the wild? There's the trick to be missed here. But like I say, I switched off, couldn't give a shit. I just wanted to get out. Now with me, not having that the service that you provide and able to dip into each industry, I fell into an industry that is comfortable to me because of what I've worked in with the military. So I fell into an engineering communications roles, and I was like, I know this. You know, it was almost a safe option for me because it's a massive risk. It's not a risk, sorry. It's a massive change of lifestyle leaving the military anyway. And I was like, well, what have I got to offer? The only thing I know I've got to offer, because no one else had told me what I've got to offer from a military perspective with all my skill sets and things like that. Going off my own head, I was like, I know this, I know that. This company's hiring. I'm going to go over there. And I got a job with them, and luckily, I've stayed with them ever since. But it was that, thinking about that now, wouldn't it have been nice for me at that opportunity to go, actually, I don't want to go there. I want a complete change and go down this avenue or down that avenue. And that was never there. You had the career fairs, was look at this, and it was like, boring, but you never had the chance to dip your toe in it, like Matt said, to go, actually, it's not boring, fucking brilliant. So yeah, for what you do, it's a massive change. From what I can see, what you provide is a massive change. Exactly what I went through, which was shit.
Well, Paul, it can't be lady luck, because that's what you've ended up in. Great, you've got a career for 12 years, and we want everyone to have that, because your life's much more successful that way. You're happier. Your family are going to be happier. You're more settled. So the only way you can do that is making it personal for each individual. So you've got to put things in place that are personal. So, for example, the CV session. The CV is personal. You're talking about someone's life. So you shouldn't be doing it in a room with 30 people, because that's the first time they're going to open up and they're going to start to think themselves. In a room with 30 people, that they'll fear that because they're not used to doing it. So they'll not do it, and then they'll leave thinking they still haven't written a CV. But that's only the start of it. When we have live shows, there's no point walking in a room with loads of businesses. You don't understand them. So what we do is we set a brochure out there that gives them the understanding first. So people can then research the businesses. We give them it. It's easy. But then they book interviews with the companies that they'll look in the brochure and say, I want to work for them, or at least I want the conversation. So when they turn up on the day at our shows, they're interviewing. They're walking around. They're interviewing. It's controlled. So if you watch a video or a film on our shows, you can see that although there's 500 people there, it doesn't look like it's busy because there's just people sat down interviewing. Military people are brilliant with time. So if you give them a time to interview at 12:10 with BAE, they'll interview at 12:10 with BAE. They won't wander around. They'll then go to their next interview at 12:30 with, I don't know, British Airways, and then they'll have that interview. So they're learning and they're speaking to the people who actually have the jobs and the hirers who are real. So we've got to make this more personal to the individual. Make it broad brush and everyone still doesn't understand. So you've got to give people time. You've got to let them believe in themselves, and you've got to let them start to begin to trust who they are and who we are. And then you form that bond, and then they start believing what you're saying. And when they believe what you're saying, their mindset changes and they go and do what they've got to do. Because military people in general are fantastic, but they sometimes don't quite believe that they're the person that they can really be and they can go and be anything they want to be. But you've got to give them that belief, and you will never do that in groups. So you've got to do that. The first part, and certain parts have to be individual to show that you actually really care about that person. And that's what we do.
John, I think like where your business has gone from to where it is now, you've had to make lots of changes. You've learned and gone, actually, we could do this. We've learned, you've done stuff. From your point of view as the person who runs the business, okay, is there anything that you picked up from your military career that you take into you running the business?
Yeah. So military-wise, clearly administration was always a strong point of mine, and it is a strong point of being an RSM and Sergeant Major and all those things. But the biggest thing that I took from the military was speed. Now, doing something in a business, i.e. if you're working along 300 people and they're not used to speed, clearly someone like Paul's going to upset them. Someone like me is going to upset them. But when you're working and you're trying to create a business, speed's going to be important. And that's how it's kind of worked really well. So I would answer emails quickly. We would get jobs done quickly in the military. We would make sure this was done quickly. Everything was about speed. Let's get it done as quick as we can. Then we can work on what the problems are before actually the staff officers arrive on the exercise or whatever. So speed, I was always conscious of. But I'm also conscious that everyone in the military now still is working at speed. So my business would not work if we didn't react with speed. So I'm so conscious now that everything has to be done so quickly. If somebody emails, they're emailed within 4 hours. If somebody needs something, it's sorted in 4 hours. If the CV needs reviewing, it's reviewed within 24 hours. If somebody wants a phone call, they've got a phone call in 4 hours. Everything's about speed because they're expecting it. And the minute they don't get speed and they don't get something back is the minute they drop off and the dynamic changes. And that's kind of the problem for when you're leaving the military because it's so slow. That's what makes us unique, though. We have the ability to move really quickly because we have no one that needs to sign stuff off. We have our own policies and all the kind of processes we work with, but we're unique because people can come to us within a minute and they're starting to be actioned very, very quickly. And that's what people love about it. So if I can take anything away from the military, it's the ability for us to work fast, to change, to pivot, to get things done. And I've brought that into the business because everyone who works in our business has to work at that speed.
Talking about bringing people into the business is an interesting one because the first thing I think of, if you're doing everything at speed, as the growth of the business, how sustainable is that? If when it was just Steve-O on his iPhone answering emails, very quickly as the business has grown, when was it like, shit, I've got a business here. I need to stop bringing people in. I need a team.
Well, we hit glass ceilings all the time. So we've brought another 2 people in the last 2 months. We're bringing some more military people in who've served and been in civilian world for a few years next year. So the best people's the answer. The people, we pay good wages because I don't want somebody coming in because it's their job. I want somebody to come in and be John Stephenson, and I want them to say exactly the same as what I'm saying. And when they do them things and they work on our processes, the speed's natural. But if they love it and they want it enough, that speed's going to be there. And it's so important. It has to continue. And I'm sorry to cut you off there, Matt, but the thing about what we do is the biggest problem when you're leaving the military is everyone's telling you different things. Now, whether people come into my business and think what I'm saying is not quite right, or they would do it a different way, it does not matter to me. I'll discuss that with them, but if I say this is what we're going to do, and this is as a team what we're saying, and we're all saying it, don't care what anybody thinks, if it's slightly different. Once we decide on that, that's what we're all saying. But the thing is, that means it's clear. And everyone's getting the same level. And I think that's so important because then you clear the fog of what everybody else believes. And we're all just focusing on one process, one system, one structure. That's really, really easy for people to follow.
There's 2 things, mate, that jump out for me. The first one is there's a guy called Dan Pink. He's wrote a book called Drive. You may have read his stuff. He talks about motivation and he talks about autonomy, mastery, and purpose. All right. So people need autonomy to make decisions, the mastery and the skill set to do the job, and purpose, a reason why. And when they talk about motivating people, he says you need to pay people enough money so that money isn't the reason that motivates them. And I really like that because you said you pay people the money, so it's not a thing. That's the first thing. Second thing is leadership, right? Leadership. This is your business, right? And I'm all for, having group think, getting people together, asking people's opinions and stuff. But there gets a decision and there gets a point where someone needs to pick left or right. Yeah. And, as a leader and a founder of and a director of a business, that decision sits with you. You live or die by the sword. And I like that, mate. I like the fact that you're not going, and then, we get the group consensus, because the group consensus don't pay your mortgage. Your company does. And the fact that you're going, I get your points. I get that. Yeah, I like that bit. This is what we're doing. And that level of leadership when you're on top of a business, the loneliness of command, mate,
Well, I do listen, but once I've listened, then I'll just make the decision on it. We have consultants that come in and tell us what's bad. I don't really need to know what's good. I can tell what's good. But what I do need is people to come in and say, John, well, actually, this is what's happening when we're looking from this point of view. So that's what I'm listening to. And we do change quite often. People have come to the live shows and said, when we do a live show, we get the businesses to present on their businesses first. Now, that takes 2 hours in the morning. Some people are saying, well, that's a bit of a waste of time. But we did the consultancy on it, and over 300 people in the room who were service leavers, 100% of them said it was the most important part of the day. So I've listened to all of that, and we'll continue to do that because the importance is the individual. Yes, we look after the businesses, but the importance is they need to know what's going on. So we'll give them 2 hours to make sure that happens. But there's other things that we do that are not quite right. One of them being a huge one, in the earlier days, we compared ourselves to CTP. And I would actively say that kind of stuff. I now realize, because people have spoken to me and I've listened to what they're saying, that we ain't in competition. We're just a different business, a unique business that gives it another option. So I don't want to compare myself or be in competition with them. I don't care about that. I care about what we're doing. I care about my people, and I care about the businesses I work with And very importantly, all those people who are going to be in my position or are in my position when I left badly, because that's where the change needs to happen. And whether everyone comes through that or not, I'm never going to do 15,000 people. Everyone won't want to come through it. But the people who do will get every single thing that's possible that will give them that career that they're actually looking for. So we haven't got time to sit around for 10 hours debating stuff. Okay, this is best practice. This is what happens. Right, is everyone happy with this? Good. Right, we're all saying it.
I think, mate, you're talking about bringing people in to mark your homework. I love that too, mate. I love the fact that you know, that level of transparency. John, in the interest of time, so we spoke a lot about the business, you know, how you came about the business, where the business is at now. But just the final part is always the elevator pitch, that Dragon's Den bit, you know. So if people are listening to the podcast, if both our listeners are listening, it would be great to know what is FTG and what's happening next, mate.
Well, the FTG is about the hunter being the hunter and the hunted, which is the businesses flipping round and becoming the hunter. So the individuals are then the hunted. So it's the hunter to the hunted and then in reverse. Once you get that connection, then you get loads of success. So that's what the FTG is. But we've got to create, first of all, a professional. In this case, let's call it a service user, service leaver. On the flip side, we've got to create a business that understands it. Get them two things right. We don't need CVs. We don't need to be, you know, all over LinkedIn. Apply. We just need to talk. That's what the FTG is. And if you get lots of great candidates who are leaving the military, for example, and lots of brilliant businesses that want them, then they already know the quality they're getting. But the candidates know the quality of the businesses. So where we're going to do lots more of that. We're going to grow. We're going to create more brand because more young people need to know about us. The reason they don't is because there's a contract and we can't go on barracks. We're working on things that will get information to younger people because lots and lots of people leave in the first 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. We're not seeing many of those people. What's happening to those people? Most of them don't get an end product when they're leaving the military. What's happened to them? Where are they going? Why are they not on the 30, 40, 50,000 pound jobs? We're not seeing it. So we're trying hard to work on that. And that's what BDMs will do when they come in next year. More of that. So we get more presence. But the new Hunter app is going to change everything. This is going to create even more speed. The new Hunter app is two-phased. With one side, we've got a business, a partner, who puts in the information that they are looking for. So their industry bases, their locations are looking to employ people, simple things, but it's all drop down, so it's very quick. On the flip side, we have, and in this case, let's just call it a service user or service leaver, a person who's looking for a role. Now, their statistic is important to the business. So they've got to provide statistic, but we don't want to make it like LinkedIn. We want to make it easy because probably around 95% of people leaving the military are on LinkedIn. So how do we give them easy access to all our partners? What we do is we allow them an app, which is free. They go on and they become a hunter. Now, the hunter has 7 stages. The hunter starts as a cub. It's when it's born. It then becomes a pathfinder, a stalker, all these things until it becomes the ultimate hunter. And that's statistic. Once they put that statistic in, they go gold and they're visible. So the partners can see them. Now, the statistic is looking for matches to industry, which where they want to go, matches to location, because we all want to work and live in the places. We don't want to be traveling all over the place. Radius to where we're prepared to travel. So I live in York. I want to work in construction. Construction companies looking at me going, oh, he's put 30 miles. All right, we've got jobs within that level. Availability, time, ticking bomb. Availability so the partners know how long this person's got left. So straight away, 12 months left, brilliant. Right, let's monitor that. 6 months, 3 months, wow, get on top of them now. And lots of other information. And then one of them hunts the business, so the candidate starts hunting the business, gets in touch with them, email, phone them, because we've got all those details. But the hunted, the business, flip reverses it. When they see top quality people who are relevant to their business, they hunt them. So we're hitting at 2 angles, and it's really quick. effectively you could have a job in an hour. It's that quick. And we're trialing it. We're right at the end of the trial now. It's live. We've got something like 30 service leavers and 30 odd businesses on it a minute. And it's really, really working. And everything's working in between. We're soon going to be moving it across, so it's going to be released in the next 2 weeks. And it's going to be free. We're not going to charge anybody. We're going to pay for it. That we'll put that money in, and we'll see where it goes. Because it could be the change that everybody's looking for. That's so simple. Let's forget about trying to make it complicated. Let's make it so simple that anyone can use it and get the role that they want in the future. And of course, all of that means you're learning. So all of a sudden you're owning it. You're gaining direction. Oh, that's not for me. That's not for me. Oh, that was though. That gives you a direction. You've got your job. That's what
I think from a business point of view, mate, to go from 5 sheets of A4 paper with a vision to where you are now with, loads of success rates. You've run loads of events at great venues, and now you're developing an app. That's evolution, mate. And what's the quote? If we do what we've always done, we'll get what we've always got. And the fact that you're moving into that space in app development, so that you can link people who want jobs with people who are looking to employ people, I think it's fantastic, mate. With that unique link of understanding what the military has to offer. John, it's been fascinating. It has been. I can't believe we've been talking for over 40 minutes, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating insight into what is a really, really exciting time for FTG. And long may your success continue, mate. And from my point of view personally, I think a thank you, because although this is a business, it is a job for you. You're supporting people who you understand, and you're supporting a community who's very close to us in the military, all of us involved in the podcast, whether that's the military community, the veteran community, or those people who are transitioning from one to the other. So a big shout out to you, mate, and a thank you from me and the rest of the team, mate.
Yeah, well, that's very kind. Very kind, but you've got to remember this is done by lots of people who support, and many people at the beginning of this did it for nothing. So we'd never be anywhere without all those people who did it for nothing and continue to support these days. And it only works in collaboration. If we're all fighting against each other, it doesn't work. So we will collaborate with anybody who wants to bring something to what we're doing.
Love that.
But thanks for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much. And thanks for giving up your time.
Cheers, buddy.
Take care, mate.
No, it's been fantastic. Stay safe.